Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Breaking the Huddle. I'm Joel Klatt, and we have got a great show for you today. This show, as always, is brought to you by Dr. Pepper. It is the one fans deserve. I got my top 10 coming up, some thoughts on a few of those teams. I've got what I think is a really good breakdown of the Ohio State defense coming up, and we're going to talk to Max Duggan, and I can't wait to talk to Mad Max. So I can't wait for that. That's all coming up on today's program. Let's get started, though, because it's going to be a big week of college football, and the top 10 was starting to change up a little bit with some big wins from some teams. Did they wind up in the top 10? Let's see. Okay, let's start with number 10. And at number 10, I'm going to go with Utah. You guys know how I feel about Utah and Kyle Whittingham. I still think that that's a really good team, even at 5-2, and they're going to stay in my top 10. At number 9, I've got Oklahoma State. They get back into the top 10. How about the gutsy win for Oklahoma State over Texas, by the way? And they're banged up quite severely as they head on the road this week in a huge game in the Big 12 against Kansas State. The winner of that game, by the way, puts themselves in a great spot to get to the Big 12 championship game. And for Oklahoma State, it would be back-to-back years in that game. So they're at number 9. At number 8, I've got Oregon. And I want to sit on Oregon for just a moment because Dan Lanning and this Oregon team, they've done a remarkable job. I really am impressed with what Oregon has done, in particular with where this started, right? Like, we remember we left them for dead on the side of the road after week 1. And that's kind of the problem with college football, is that it is a cruel sport when it comes to when you lose. And in particular, how you lose. And yes, they got their doors blown clean off against Georgia. But in hindsight, shouldn't we at least give them a bit of the benefit of the doubt? They had a brand new coach, goes across the country to take a job. It's his first head coaching job ever. They get a brand new quarterback and transfer Bo Nix. They're trying to learn a new offense. Then they've got to go all the way across the country into the backyard, albeit basically a home stadium for the defending national champion Georgia Bulldogs. That was a tough ask. Now, granted, they didn't play that well that day, but they've gotten way better. And that's one of the things that I think we've lost in college football, in particular those of us that talk about it for a living, is that we don't offer the ability for teams to develop and get better. And that's exactly what Oregon has done. And that's why I'm going to sing their praises, in particular after a week in which they beat UCLA. They're really good up front on their offensive line. Bo Nix played his best game as a Duck last week, and the environment was special. You Duck fans, that was a special environment, and I think it goes as an underrated spot to play. I get it. You don't have 100,000. You don't even have 80,000. But those Duck fans in Autzen Stadium, that is one of the best places to go watch a college football game as a college football fan, and I think it's one of the most underrated environments as far as home field advantage that we have in our sport. So kudos to the Ducks on a big week. All right, for number 7, I've got TCU, and I'll talk with Max Duggan a little bit later, but I will tell you about TCU. This TCU team, they have got some of the most, competitive grit of anybody out there. And again, they come back. They're able to win and stay undefeated and put themselves in prime position to go on and to go and compete for the Big 12 title. All right, at 6, I've got Clemson. I moved them behind Alabama after they struggled with Syracuse because I don't know if Clemson's all that good. I really don't. I just don't know how good they are. That was a better way to put it. I don't know how good Clemson actually is. Now, you can tell me, oh, look, they've got all these wins against ranked opponents. Do we think those ranked opponents are any good? I don't. Do we think that Clemson would finish any higher than 3rd in the Big Ten East or the SEC East or maybe the SEC West with LSU surging? I don't know. I'm not sure. That offense has to get better. None of the other top 10 teams have had to pull their quarterback because of poor play in order to win a game, and Clemson has. That's a quarterback issue that's unsettled. Let's just put it that way. It's unsettled. They went on a 17-0 run after they pulled DJU. Okay, so Alabama's going to move up to number 5. Pretty impressive in that win over Mississippi State. Michigan's going to stay at 4. My top 4 hasn't changed, by the way. Georgia is at 3. Tennessee is at 2. And then Ohio State is at 1. Now, Ohio State is at 1, and you could read that game against Iowa several different ways. And trust me, I did, because I didn't think that they played their best, and I don't think they would admit that they played their best. They actually showed some things that were, I would just call them chinks in the armor, if you will, right? And this is a team that didn't run the ball well, that didn't play well in the red zone. And then you look up at the end of the day and they just killed them. Gave Kirk Ferentz his worst loss as a head coach at Iowa. You look up at the end of the day and the defense was spectacular. And they did exactly what they needed to do. So both things can be true. Ohio State didn't play particularly well and won, 54-10. That was like a total blowout. It was a total blowout. And so in that respect, isn't this Ohio State team incredibly scary? And we'll see them on the road this week against Penn State in a game in which Gus and Ginny and I will be at for Big Noon Saturday. Speaking of that Buckeyes team, I want to break down this defense. Listen, we can talk about their offense all day long. And yes, they've got a special group on offense. Offensive line is good. Their running backs have been good until last week. Their quarterback has been great. Obviously, one of the leaders for the Heisman Trophy. The wide receivers, you know how I feel about them. But I think it's their defense that actually is going to be the separator for them this year down the stretch. I break them down next. What makes the Buckeyes defense so good? That's coming up. All right, hey, welcome back into the program. Joel Klatt here, breaking the huddle. Listen, Ohio State has improved drastically on defense. I mean drastically. And now you look up, and they're one of the best defenses, at least statistically, in the country. So it begs the question, like, what's going on? Why are they so much better? And is it just Jim Knowles? So Jim Knowles is their new defensive coordinator. It's his first year at Ohio State. And he came over from Oklahoma State. And at Oklahoma State, by the way, they were really good defensively. So he comes over and he's hired away. And I'll be honest, I think he had the most pressurized coordinator position in America, because it's pretty clear that Ohio State, at least last year, was probably good enough in every other area other than the defense to go and maybe even compete for a national championship. That's the expectation at Ohio State. The expectation is to win every single game. And so he's brought on, it's like, hey, fix the one thing that we need fixed so that we can win every game and win the national championship. And good luck. So here comes Jim Knowles. And I really love chatting with him about defense and defensive philosophy. And I want to go through it. Okay, so the improvement under defensive coordinator Jim Knowles is really about his philosophy of defense. And when I talked to him about it, the origin of this defense really came when he was at Duke under David Cutcliffe, and he was the coordinator for the Duke Blue Devils. And he wanted to build a defense that was really predicated on two things. In the modern day college football, you need to get calls in quickly. So he wanted a defense that he could communicate very quickly and yet remain multiple in the way that he attacked the offense. Okay, so short calls that will allow him to change his front structure, change his coverage, as well as change the way that they could pressure or blitz a quarterback. And he wanted to maintain that aggressiveness even with quick communication so that if an offense was going fast, he didn't have to sit there and base defense. And then the other part, okay, so it's two-pronged. So that was the first thing, quickly communicate. And then the second thing is disguise. He wanted to have the ability to always be in something where it was disguised. The opposing quarterback and the opposing offensive coordinator would not quite know what they were in. And he could bait you into bad plays or even bad throws. He could make the quarterback hold onto the ball for an extra beat in order for the pressure to show up. That's one of the reasons why Oklahoma State led the country last year in sacks per game. So let me show you some examples. All right, so it's easy to just talk about it, but I think it's better when we show you. So let's start with the ability to really confuse an offensive coordinator. And in this look, what's going to happen is that an offensive coordinator is going to see the defense lined up, and he's going to determine whether he wants to stay with the original play call or change it. The original play call in this play for Iowa was a little tunnel screen to the wide receiver. What Ohio State is showing is cover zero man coverage. Okay, so this is what they're showing. It's man-to-man, tunnel screen, great option, because all you need to do is come out and you just block this outside corner with the inside tight end. But the problem is that Ohio State dropped into a zone with everybody's eyes on the quarterback. So even this corner, he's going to drop and open up and put his eyes on the quarterback because he's in zone, which allows him to react quicker. There was a linebacker that was dropping out. He's there to stop it. The safety is over the top. He's there to stop it. So the defense, and more importantly, the defensive look pre-snap, baits the coordinator into staying with a play that he might not otherwise have stayed with if he knew it was going to be a zone. Let's go to the next look. Okay, so this look here, Ohio State's going to have kind of a muddled middle of the field look, but they're going to drop a safety to the middle of the field, which means that you're going to have free access on the outside. The corners have deep responsibility. Should be an easy throw on the outside. It wasn't because Iowa's not very good offensively, but that should have been a completion, okay? So there's three safeties there, and the quarterback and the play caller are going to keep that in mind. Like, okay, we know that. We've seen that on film. They're going to drop back to a single safety look. When the middle of the field closes with one safety, I'm going to have free access on the outside. That should be an easy throw. Well, what happens next? Well, you get the same type of muddled three safety look in the back end, but this time, rather than the near hash safety dropping back, the middle safety drops back, and the second level players drop underneath the outside routes. So now it's a much wider coverage on the underneath. Petrus has to hold the ball because the throw he's expecting to have isn't there. When he has to hold the ball an extra beat, guess what shows up? The rush. And they get there and they get the sack. So that's an element of disguising for the quarterback. He's not getting what he expects to see because of the disguise, and it's a really good job. Okay, so this is against Rutgers. On this play, it looks like Ohio State's going to be in man with one safety up here that's free. There's 5 guys in to protect. Okay, so now Ohio State moves. What do they move to? Well, let's rewind it back. They move to cover 0. That free safety is going to take man. The end's going to drop out and take the back, which leaves 6 guys to rush. They can overwhelm the offensive line. They spin this guy who looks like he's man coverage, and bam! I mean, hit in the face. Incomplete pass. Nice job disguising. But again, the memory bank for a quarterback and an offensive coordinator is going to be quite good. In particular, and trust me when I tell you this, when you get hit in the face like that as a quarterback, you remember those looks. You just do. They remain in your memory bank for that game. So now we move later in the game against Rutgers, and what do they look like? Boom, look at that. They look like they're all coming in that same look. So the quarterback's going to say, I need to get the ball out quickly to my side adjust to the tight end. But Ohio State has dropped back into coverage. They disguised. The quarterback has to wait a beat. He holds the ball, and then he throws it away. It's an incompletion and a quality play for the defense. Why? Because they disguised the look. You're giving something to the coordinator and the quarterback pre-snap that is not what they're getting post-snap. That confusion leads to the quarterback holding onto the ball so you can get pressure onto him, and it leads to the coordinator leaving plays on or checking into plays that are not advantageous for the look that's going to be created post-snap. So Jim Knowles comes into the Ohio State defense, and they've improved drastically. And how has he done that? By confusing the opposing OC and the opposing quarterback. That's his philosophy, and he's done it very well. All right, coming up next, I get to chat with one of my favorite players so far this year, Max Duggan. Oh, Mad Max joins the program here on Breaking the Huddle when we come back. All right, welcome back into the program. Joel Klatt here. This is Breaking the Huddle, and I'm really excited right now to be joined by my next guest, a guy that I've been singing his praises over the last few weeks, and that's the quarterback of the TCU Horned Frogs, Max Duggan. Max, what's going on, brother? How you doing?
Good. How are you, Joel? Thanks for having me on.
Oh, 100%. Okay, so let me just get to like what your team has accomplished, and obviously you're a big reason why, but over the last calendar month, you guys have beaten 4 ranked opponents. Did you know that's only the 3rd time in history that a team over a calendar month has beaten 4 ranked teams? Stanford in 2012 and Iowa in 1960. You guys got to be feeling good about yourselves.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun the last couple of weeks. And I think that there's a lot of praise for Coach Dykes and him getting us ready to play each week. And I think just take on the mentality of, 1 week at a time, playing that game, and that next game is the most important game. But no, it's been fun. It's been a fun past couple of weeks, and we know we got a gauntlet coming up in front of us. So It's gonna be fun.
I want to talk about you now, and I know that you're gonna try to deflect because that's the type of guy you are, and I respect that. However, I talked about a couple of weeks ago on my podcast that the path that you've traveled, going back to the heart issue that you had and that normal EKG before the COVID season, then obviously Gary Patterson is out, Sonny Dykes is in. Max, you lost your job to begin the season, and they went a different direction and then an injury, and now all of a sudden you're in. I'm impressed because young people don't generally face adversity and work themselves through it in the modern day, in particular in college football. You did. Why?
Yeah, I think my career has had a lot of ups and downs. There's been a lot of challenges. There's been a lot of things that I've had to face, but I think I've grown as a person because of that. And I think it kind of starts just the people around me that have supported me, starting with my parents. They've done a great job of talking me through a lot of things, being there in my corner, siblings. And then, the friends and coaches that have been here with me at TCU. I think that's been a big deal. Big reason why I wanted to stay here at TCU, because I made, my best friends here. I love Fort Worth, love this university. Just love being a part of, everything that's going on down here. So
I want to ask you how you would define your play. I was trying the other day again on the podcast. I was like, competitive fortitude, toughness, grit, ball playing Jesse, ultimate competitor, winner. Like all of these things, like that's the way I watch it. You're just not going to be denied. And it's one of the things that I love about watching you play the sport is that your competitive toughness is just greater than everybody else on the field. Where did that come from?
Yeah, I think taking on the mindset of just trying to be a ball player, trying to be tough. And I think that started from my dad. He was a high school coach for 30 plus years. I played for him. And then kind of the place where I grew up from, Council Bluffs, Iowa, a place of, not a lot of things were given to you. You got to work really hard for it. So I think just being surrounded by that environment, playing for my dad, seeing his teams, his personality and the personality of kind of my town, I think that's where it kind of comes from, of just being that, that gritty, tough guy, trying to be a ball player, trying to find a way to win, just being competitive as heck, though.
What I love is like late last week against Kansas State. I mean, I don't know if it was like a second down. You guys needed a first down to basically like close out the game. And you like dove in there head first and like lowering your head. And I'm like, what's he doing? What? You can't get hurt. Stop, Max. Then I'm like, hold on, timeout. This kid's not going to not lower his head and try to get that first down, and it's something that I love about you. You've also, by the way, it's not just your toughness, right? And I think I would be selling you short if I just talked about that, because your numbers have been outstanding. Your offense has been outstanding. You guys are undefeated. You're sitting in a great position in the Big 12. You are I'm a Heisman voter. We obviously have a big voice here. You are on my short list for the Heisman Trophy. Max, how does that hit you when you hear that?
Yeah, you're grateful to be in that position, but I understand. I think we understand at this moment. It doesn't really mean a whole lot. We understand that we really haven't done a whole lot in the season yet. We got a lot of games left to go. We understand our goals are at the end of the season, and we just got to keep playing better, keep doing our job week to week. So people are talking about us at the end of the season. That's what we're really hoping for.
I know you're only 1 year in with Sonny Dykes, right? Not even a full year, right? But does he have any, like, one of those? I ask all players this, like those crutch things that he always says that like now everyone just kind of chuckles at. What do you think?
Oh yeah, I think kind of the running joke, and it does help a lot. But I think what he says a lot around the facility is "do your job." I think that's probably the three words that he says the most around it. Just do your job. So people kind of mess around with him a little bit, but it does mean a lot for us, and we understand. It's a big part of why we've been successful this year.
Well, that's true, and you've been doing your job exceptionally well. Max Duggan, quarterback of the TCU Horned Frogs, guy I respect a tremendous amount. Thank you for your time, my man. And listen, if you guys beat West Virginia, Gus and Ginny and I are coming to Fort Worth next week.
Yeah, appreciate you having me on, Joel. And yeah, always like listening to, you, Gus and Jen. You guys are always a lot of fun. So thanks for having me on.
You got it. All right, there he goes, Max Duggan. Coming back, we're going to have a little Klattback and end the show. All right, welcome back to the program. Joel Klatt here, breaking the huddle. Let's get out to Twitter, because Twitter's such an amazing place. So let's go check out what everyone's saying to me on Twitter, and let's see if I have any responses. All right, Chris says, in response to Clemson, LOL, nice hot take, Joel. I bet you thought that same thing during 2018, didn't you? Chris is saying that what I said earlier, which is I think Clemson has played virtually let's just say an easy schedule. I don't think they're going to be tested coming down the stretch. I think they've got the easiest path to the playoff, and I don't know how good they actually are. I just don't, and I don't think we will know how good they are until the college football playoff. And no, I did not say that in 2018, and part of that was because in 2018 they had an elite quarterback. They had what I would consider to be a better roster, and they were dominating to a better degree and a better clip than they are now. that team was a much better team than this one is. You just had to bench your quarterback in order to beat Syracuse. Those are just facts. The Clemson fan base is off their rocker. Next up. Doug says, this is what Sark does. He loses games. He has never won anywhere. Stop the propaganda. He's not a good head coach. This is who Texas is with him. Stop trying to tell us otherwise because you are friends with him. One, I'm not friends with him because friends normally share a meal together. I've never shared a meal with Steve Sarkisian. Okay, we've never even hung out. I work and cover Steve Sarkisian, but I'm not friends with him. That's number one. Number two, he has won other places. Remember, he took over a program at Washington that was winless the year before he got there, and by the time he left, they were going to bowl games and winning 7 and 8 games. So what do you mean he hasn't won anywhere? He built a program up that then Chris Peterson took and then took to a playoff. Give me a break. Hasn't won anywhere. Get out of here, Doug. Dumb. All right, next up. Chad says, you legit tried to say Ohio State defense was great based off their performance against Iowa. You're losing objectivity, Joel. Well, they are great based on the numbers. They're 5th in scoring defense in college football. They're number 2 in total defense in college football. Okay, I thought that they did exactly what they should do to a really inept and bad offense, which was dominate them. Guess what a great team does to an offense like Iowa? Holds them to, 8 first downs, 158 total yards, and 1 of 3 on third down. And they get, let's call it, 6 turnovers. So what do you expect them to do? They are great. And by the way, I just explained why earlier in the program. So I hope you were watching, Chad. Because I educated you on the Ohio State D. Listen, everyone, thanks for watching Breaking the Huddle. I really enjoyed doing this show. Thank you to Dr. Pepper. Remember, it is the one fans deserve, Gus, Genie, and I, in Happy Valley for Penn State, Ohio State, coming up on Big Noon Saturday. Thanks for watching Breaking the Huddle, everybody.